The bodyguard was about to follow the lady, but someone blocked his way. Reluctantly, he handed her a pen and instructed her to press it if she encountered any danger, assuring her that he would appear immediately. After that, the lady stepped into the high-level family meeting room. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned her back, the door was locked tightly from the inside. Sensing danger, the lady quickly pressed the top of the pen. Immediately, the bodyguard Jeha entered the room. Before going in, he had even brought an umbrella. 6 months earlier, Jeha had witnessed his girlfriend being kidnapped. The perpetrator was a comrade with whom he had fought side by side. But by the time he arrived, the mastermind had already gotten into a car. That person was none other than Park Kwon-soo, a member of the South Korean National Assembly. Right after that, a gunshot rang out, and the woman Jeha loved fell to the ground. Jeha had no time to grieve as a baton struck him, knocking him unconscious. When he woke up, he found a gun in his hand. Just like that, Jeha was framed as a criminal responsible for harming civilians. In an instant, he went from being a special forces soldier to a wanted fugitive. At this point, Jeha quickly escaped to Turkey, planning to return to South Korea to avenge his girlfriend. However, at the train station, he encountered a terrified girl. Her name was Anna, and she was being pursued by a group of people. Seeing that Jeha was also Korean, she begged him for help. Unfortunately, Jeha didn't want to get himself into trouble at the time. As he brushed her off, Anna had no choice but to keep running. But it wasn't long before she was discovered by the kidnappers. Just as she was about to be taken away, Jeha showed up. As a top-notch mercenary, Jeha possessed extraordinary skills. He unleashed a series of rapid attacks, quickly defeating the man. When Jeha checked the man's ID, he realized the attacker was a police officer, so he hurriedly fled the station. Unexpectedly, Anna blocked his path again. She begged him to take her back to South Korea. Just then, 2 patrolling officers passed by, noticing something suspicious and preparing to intervene. Jeha could only signal Anna to go ahead, and then swiftly dealt with the 2 officers. When Jeha exited the station, he saw that Anna had already been captured. She sat in the car, banging on the window, still begging Jeha to save her. But the man next to the car flashed his police badge, telling Jeha not to interfere with official duties. Helpless, Jeha could only take a taxi straight to the airport. 6 months later, Jeha returned to South Korea and worked as a laborer for a construction company. That day, he received a call from his boss, asking him to go to a building to repair a billboard. Unexpectedly, this simple job would change Jeha's life. By coincidence, the image on the billboard was of the man in the room. That man was Jong, a member of the National Assembly and a presidential candidate. Next, while Jong wasn't paying attention, a woman quietly slipped white powder into his wine. Jang's first reaction was to embrace and kiss her, completely unaware of her previous actions. At that moment, a TV interview caught Jang's attention. The person being interviewed was his wife, Choi Yoo-jin, who spoke softly and kindly, embodying the image of the perfect national first lady. Jang watched while sipping his red wine. The room soon filled with the scent of hormones. The woman gracefully removed her clothes for him. Just then, Jang saw Jeha fixing the billboard outside. He turned to tell his lover to close the curtains, but before he could finish speaking, his mind started to become fuzzy. It was only then that he realized the woman had drugged his wine, but by then, it was too late. The beautiful lover smiled seductively at Jeha before drawing the curtains. At the same time, a group of men in black stormed into the building. Judging by their movements, it was clear they were highly trained. The security forces outside were no match for them. This group had been sent by another presidential candidate to deal with Jang. They carried cameras, intending to take pictures of Jang's affair with another woman. Jeha saw everything through the window. He urged the elderly woman who had helped him to leave quickly. But at that moment, one of the men in black glanced at Jeha through the window and ruthlessly knocked the elderly woman to the ground. Seeing her injured and lying on the floor, Jeha couldn't hold back any longer. He immediately leaped into action, pulling out a screwdriver and hurling it at the glass. With just a small crack, he easily kicked through the window and burst into the building. After successfully breaking in, Jeha engaged in a fierce fight with the men in black. Any who approached him were sent flying, and the room quickly descended into chaos. Meanwhile, amidst the brawl, a security officer hit the alarm, causing Jang's room to be locked down. Upon hearing the alarm, Jang's aides downstairs rushed in. Seeing numerous men in black on the surveillance cameras, one of them hurriedly called for backup. Meanwhile, Jeha single-handedly fought off more than 10 men in black with fluid and decisive moves. Not long after, the police arrived, forcing the men in black to retreat. Jeha only left the scene after making sure the elderly woman was safely taken to the hospital in an ambulance. When he woke up, the first thing Congressman Jang did was call his wife, instructing her to deal with the worker who had seen his face. He was so brazen because their marriage was merely a formality. In reality, they were using each other. His wife's powerful conglomerate family supported his run for the South Korean presidency. Once successful, he would help her reclaim the position of heir to the corporation. At that moment, his wife picked up the phone and called the raid team captain, ordering him to resolve the problem immediately. Meanwhile, Jeha returned home, preparing to pack up and leave. Just then, the sound of a car running over a manhole cover caught his attention. It turned out the raid team, under the orders of the congressman's wife, had tracked him down to this location. Captain Yu watched the surveillance footage repeatedly, suddenly realizing that the young man was actually a subordinate he had once trained in special forces and the most capable soldier at the time. He quickly told the director to halt the operation immediately, warning that the entire team was in danger. The man they were targeting was extremely dangerous. However, the special forces director felt no threat, even laughing it off. "Why are you afraid of a lowly laborer? It's not like he could take down our elite GS raid team." The director had no idea that Jeha easily neutralized each soldier that the director so proudly boasted about. He cut the power, moving through the team like a wolf among sheep. Once finished, Jeha calmly disappeared into the night. Captain Yu arrived at the scene, only feeling fortunate that Jeha hadn't sent the raid team to the other side. But this stroke of luck led to the wrath of the congressman's wife. She had sent an entire raid team, yet they hadn't been able to capture the lowly laborer, which she deemed a waste of resources. Captain Yu reported to the congressman's wife that Jeha had once been the most powerful special forces soldier under his command, now the best mercenary in the world. He didn't understand why such a dangerous person had suddenly returned to South Korea. With Jeha's skills, not even 10 GS teams could be a match. It would be best to find a way to recruit Jeha to their side. However, the congressman's wife was exceedingly arrogant. She continued to order her men to pursue Jeha. This time, the director employed facial recognition technology and quickly tracked down Jeha's whereabouts. It turned out that, while on the run, Jeha had helped an elderly couple, and they had kindly taken him in. The couple treated Jeha as if he were their own son, who had passed away early in life. Because of their kindness, Jeha stayed a few extra days to help them out. He had no idea this act of goodwill would bring great misfortune to the elderly couple. While Jeha was out driving to buy supplies, an assassin hired by the congressman's wife found them. The assassin tied up the elderly couple, forcing them to reveal Jeha's location. But the couple, seeing Jeha's family, refused to disclose anything. Frustrated, the assassin poured gasoline over the couple and took out a lighter. Luckily, just at the critical moment, Jeha arrived in time. Seeing the couple suffering because of him, Jeha's eyes filled with murderous intent. He immediately charged at the assassin, engaging in a fierce struggle. This assassin turned out to be the strongest opponent Jeha had ever faced. But after some time, Jeha finally subdued him. "Who sent you? Targeting me is one thing, but how dare you involve the couple? Everyone protecting you deserves to be wiped off the face of the earth." At first, the assassin refused to reveal his employer, but when Jeha raised a hammer to strike him down, the assassin, in fear, confessed that the person behind it all was the congressman's wife. Upon hearing this, Jeha got on his motorcycle and rode straight to her location. He easily overpowered the guards at the gate and calmly walked in. Jeha's unexpected arrival startled the congressman's wife so much that she dropped her wine glass. However, she wasn't afraid. "You're more handsome than I imagined. So you're the laborer, huh? I didn't think you'd have the guts to show up in front of me." She then casually sat down on the sofa. Jeha simply warned her, "Don't come after me or anyone around me again, or I'll find you no matter where you are." The congressman's wife scoffed, as she had already set a trap for him. Immediately, a group of men rushed in, all aiming their weapons at Jeha. Jeha was quickly bound and taken down to the parking garage. But just as one of the henchmen prepared to take him to a secluded spot to finish him off, police sirens blared outside. The police had arrived looking for the motorcycle that Jeha had taken. Taking advantage of the distraction, Jeha used a can of oil to free his hands from the ropes. Hearing noise, one of the henchmen returned to check, but as soon as he opened the trunk, Jeha kicked him down. Jeha pinned him to the ground. Another henchman came running at the sound of the commotion, but he was also swiftly taken down with an elbow strike. None of these men could match the world's top mercenary. Jeha easily incapacitated them all and grabbed one of their guns. Once again, Jeha returned to the congressman's wife's mansion. Her secretary Kim stood frozen in terror at the sight. At the same moment, the congressman's wife descended the stairs. "This is our second meeting," Jeha said. For the first time, fear overtook the congressman's wife, replacing her earlier arrogance. Now, her life lay in the hands of this dangerous man. But just then, a voice from behind called out, "Shoot her." Jeha turned to see the girl he had met at the train station. Her name was Anna, the illegitimate daughter of Congressman Jang, who had been kept locked up in Turkey. She had been secretly brought back to South Korea by the congressman's wife. But before anything else could be said, Anna was dragged away by the henchmen. At the same time, more guards rushed in. Jeha had no choice but to take the congressman's wife hostage. He demanded everyone step outside and prepare a vehicle. The congressman's wife tried to stay composed, threatening Jeha that if he put down the gun, she would spare his life. But Jeha wasn't scared. He remarked that they should ask the gun if it agreed. He then retrieved a phone hidden in a flower box, revealing that everything that had just happened had been recorded. The email on the phone would automatically send in 24 hours to government agencies and the media. If anything happened to Jeha, the truth would come out. This unexpected move made both women grit their teeth in frustration. Seizing the moment, Jeha forced the congressman's wife into a car. It turned out the congressman's wife was quite experienced. As soon as she got into the car, she began using her skills to manipulate the situation, offering to buy the emails. But, of course, Jeha wasn't about to trust her. He simply asked, "Your weakness is in my hands. How much are you willing to pay?" At this, the congressman's wife was finally silenced. Just then, a motorcycle appeared behind the car. The congressman's wife realized the brakes were failing, and no matter how hard she pressed, they wouldn't respond. It turned out that the car had been tampered with. The person on the motorcycle could control the car's speed remotely. Clearly, these two were sent by the congressman's wife's rival. Jeha readied his weapon to deal with them, but the congressman's wife explained that the car was bulletproof and the windows couldn't be opened. To escape quickly, Jeha instructed the congressman's wife to drive into a narrow lane and switch seats with her. He repeatedly tried to ram the motorcycle, but they skillfully dodged each time. Eventually, Jeha accelerated to 180 kilometers per hour, pulling ahead of the motorcycle and temporarily escaping their control. At that moment, the congressman's wife managed to open the car window. Jeha warned her to be careful and jerked the steering wheel hard, pulling out his weapon to take out the enemy. However, due to the vehicle's uncontrollable speed, he couldn't land a precise shot. Fortunately, Secretary Kim overheard the commotion and immediately sensed something was wrong. Captain Yu also realized that the motorcycle posed the greatest threat that night. He quickly ordered his team to take down the attackers on the motorcycle. Meanwhile, Jeha noticed on the GPS that a dead end lay ahead. He realized this might be the attackers' true goal. They planned to use the malfunctioning car to stage a fatal crash, silently eliminating the congressman's wife. But now, it was too late to change course. The car sped ahead, crashing straight into a construction site. The car, driven by Jeha and the congressman's wife, barreled through a series of obstacles, before careening off the road and flipping over. Both Jeha and the congressman's wife were covered in blood. Nearby construction workers rushed over to pull Jeha out of the wreck. But flames began to engulf the car due to the collision. Realizing the danger, the construction workers quickly fled. Despite intense pain coursing through his body, Jeha fought to pull open the car door and rescue the congressman's wife. At this moment, the tycoon's wife was completely unable to move, simply staring blankly at Jeha. On the other side, Secretary Kim wanted to rush in and save her, but with the flames raging so fiercely, doing so would only mean joining her in the afterlife. Just then, Jeha staggered out of the blazing inferno, carrying the lady in his arms. He had barely taken a few steps when the vehicle behind them exploded violently. A large piece of shrapnel struck Jeha in the back. The lady could only watch in stunned silence as Jeha exerted all his strength to save her. At that moment, her eyes no longer had the sharpness they once held, replaced only by tenderness. She ordered her subordinates to ensure that Jeha was saved at all costs, no matter what had to be done. The news of the presidential candidate's wife being involved in an accident quickly hit the front pages of the newspapers, with countless speculations regarding the cause. Even the hospital director personally came to visit, but the lady seemed more concerned about Jeha's condition. When she learned that his injuries weren't severe, she finally breathed a sigh of relief, a smile appearing on her face, a sight that hadn't been seen for a long time. She paid no attention to her husband's feelings, who was standing beside her. After all, the two of them were merely using each other for their own gain. The lady helped Assemblyman Zhang unbutton his shirt and tousled his hair, reminding him that this would make him look more like a husband who had stayed up all night caring for his wife. Afterward, Assemblyman Zhang appeared before the reporters with a tired expression. His eyes welled up with tears as he told the media about everything his wife had done for him, while falsely declaring that he would withdraw from the presidential race, dedicating himself wholeheartedly to the people from then on, and fighting against dark forces. This deceptive performance immediately earned him a significant boost in his presidential campaign. However, this hypocritical man didn't even dare acknowledge his own biological daughter, who had been estranged for over 10 years. He knew very well that if the public found out that a presidential candidate had an illegitimate daughter, the ensuing scandal would ruin him completely. Elsewhere, Captain Yu visited Jeha in his hospital room, trying to persuade him to join the First Lady's Special Task Force S, while also offering him a new identity. Unfortunately, after being betrayed by his comrades, Jeha now only wanted to live a normal life. He declined Captain Yu's invitation. The lady's younger brother, the chairman of the conglomerate, exited his sister's hospital room, only to run into another presidential candidate. This was none other than the mastermind behind the accident that had nearly killed the First Lady. At that very moment, the elevator doors opened, and Jeha recognized the man responsible for harming the lady, the same person who had sent his girlfriend to her death. Never in his wildest dreams did Jeha expect his enemy to appear before him like this. His face contorted with rage, and his entire body trembled. He couldn't stop himself from glancing at the bodyguard's gun. Now was the perfect opportunity for revenge. Jeha took a deep breath and prepared to act. But just as he was about to make his move, he suddenly snapped back to reality. It turned out that everything just now had only been Jeha's hallucination. He calmed down, preparing to act again. But perhaps due to overexcitement, his old wound suddenly flared up, and he could barely stand. The First Lady's bodyguard had no choice but to help him out of the elevator. Jeha could only watch helplessly as the elevator doors slowly closed. Later, he learned that the man was Congressman Park Won-soo, a presidential candidate and a direct competitor of Congressman Jang. After being discharged from the hospital, Jeha returned home and personally crafted a bomb. This special device would explode upon detecting any nearby breath. Next, he investigated Park Won-soo's daily routine and went to the barbershop that the congressman often visited. Using the excuse of dropping something in the changing room, Jeha dismissed the staff and successfully planted the sensor in Park Won-soo's clothing. Jeha then walked to the lobby. He had already rigged the revolving door with explosives. Once Park Won-soo stepped into the revolving door, the sensor would activate, triggering an explosion. Just as his plan for revenge was about to succeed, a child suddenly ran into the revolving door. Jeha couldn't bear to watch an innocent child get hurt, so he moved forward to intervene. Unfortunately, he was stopped by Park Won-soo's bodyguards. Just as tragedy seemed inevitable, the revolving door malfunctioned and wouldn't turn. Following his bodyguard's suggestion, Park Won-soo had to leave through the side door. Relieved, Jeha sighed, but the bodyguards noticed something suspicious about him and asked him to show identification. Spotting a scar on one of the guards, Jeha realized that this man was the one in black who had broken into the building not long ago, so he took him down with a swift throw. However, as the guard called for backup, Jeha was forced to retreat and ran to the elevator, trying to escape to the rooftop. Luckily, he had prepared an escape rope for this kind of situation. What surprised him was the car waiting below. Inside was the First Lady of the Chaebol family. She reminded Jeha that his identity had been exposed, and it would be much harder to seek revenge again. Faced with her offer to join her security team, this time, Jeha didn't refuse. They both shared the same enemy, and this seemed like the best path for him to exact his revenge. With his striking appearance, Jeha immediately became the object of admiration among the female employees at the company from the very first day, causing quite a commotion. From that moment on, Jeha took on a new identity, codenamed K2. Soon after, Jeha received his first assignment, to protect the First Lady's illegitimate daughter, Anna. Captain Eugene warned him that Anna must not be seen before the presidential election. Thus, Jeha's job turned into sitting in a surveillance room, monitoring Anna's every move. Seeing Anna come downstairs in her pajamas, Jeha became even more focused on watching. Anna quickly headed to the kitchen. Ignoring the prepared food, she opened the refrigerator and searched everywhere. She finally found a pack of instant noodles. Anna hugged the noodles and danced with joy. Jeha found himself captivated as he watched her on the screen. Perhaps this was the feeling of being smitten. Next, Anna took out a pot to cook the noodles, but she didn't even know how to turn on the stove. Seeing Anna's disappointment made Jeha incredibly anxious, yet helpless, so he stepped out onto the balcony to get some fresh air. Unexpectedly, when he looked up, he saw a shadowy figure on the rooftop. Could Anna be in danger? Jeha quickly climbed to the rooftop, only to find Anna sitting there, secretly eating her instant noodles. "I'm hungry too," she said, before tearfully recalling her mother. Jeha noticed a framed photo on the attic, a family picture of the three of them. The next morning, Jeha had already boiled hot water for her and then hurried back to the surveillance room. Sure enough, Anna headed to the kitchen again, and when she discovered she could now cook her noodles, she was as happy as a child. Meanwhile, the First Lady was getting ready, carefully applying makeup for her aunt's funeral. She was about to inherit a massive fortune of $24.4 million. Security at the funeral was extremely tight, and bodyguards were prohibited from entering. Therefore, the First Lady had no choice but to have Jeha pose as her driver to ensure her safety. After paying her respects, the First Lady received a notice that a family meeting would be held immediately. To ensure her safety, Jeha placed a pen in her handbag, explaining that it was a listening device. He instructed her that if the atmosphere became tense, pressing the pen once would allow him to hear what was happening inside. If she detected danger, pressing it twice would prompt him to rush in. With that, the First Lady proceeded to the meeting alone. The hallway was filled with people in black. As soon as she entered the room, the door was locked behind her. The First Lady calmly sat down. The lawyer opened a briefcase and read her aunt's will. Its contents were simple. All her assets were to be transferred to the charitable foundation controlled by the First Lady. This decision naturally displeased everyone present. They kicked the lawyer out, and the atmosphere immediately grew tense. The First Lady sensed the danger and discreetly pressed the pen. Jeha, outside, simultaneously received the conversation from the meeting room. Her stepfather and stepmother demanded that she hand over her shares to be divided among the family. The First Lady insisted they follow her aunt's will. Unexpectedly, the chairman directly offered to buy her shares at 3 times their value. Before the First Lady could respond, her husband chimed in, saying he thought it was a great idea. Having that money would make his presidential campaign much easier. Indeed, the inheritance was crucial for both sides. Whoever had those shares would become the heir to the Chaebol family. The First Lady smiled and rejected the offer. Seeing her firm refusal, the others declared they would call a board meeting to vote her out as chairperson of the foundation. It was clear they intended to strip her of power. The First Lady grew furious, and in her anger, accidentally knocked the pen aside. Her half-brother sitting across from her picked it up and pressed the button. Just like that, Jeha's signal was abruptly cut off. "Now we wait for the news from our newly appointed chairperson," someone said. The First Lady was now completely isolated in the sealed meeting room. The family threatened her, demanding she hand over her shares, or else they would remove her from her position as chairperson. If she agreed, they promised to continue supporting Congressman Zhang's presidential campaign. The First Lady reached for her phone to call for help, only to realize the signal was blocked. She could only laugh bitterly. "Is my father's empire really going to be stolen like this? So, I've fallen into your trap. You plan to use my aunt's meager inheritance to seize my massive foundation." Outside, Jeha was growing increasingly anxious about her safety. He grabbed an umbrella from the trunk, but as he reached the hallway, the bodyguards blocked his path. Jeha, not bothering to explain, used his fists to speak. Of course, they were no match for him. With a single throw, he took down the last one. Since the meeting room was locked, Jeha deliberately activated the fire alarm, forcing everyone inside to open the doors and rush out in a panic. In the end, only the First Lady remained in the room. Jeha approached, opening the umbrella. The First Lady slowly turned around, realizing this man had saved her yet again. Jeha handed her a handkerchief, which she clenched tightly in her hand. At that moment, it seemed the First Lady had completely fallen for him. Clearly, she hadn't pressed the button twice, but this man had understood her feelings. "Hold your head high, ma'am. The enemy is watching." With that, the First Lady walked out of the room under Jeha's protection. The surrounding bodyguards tried to intervene, but with just a sharp glance from Jeha, they all obediently stepped aside. Even Congressman Zhang, who chased after them, was coolly dismissed by the First Lady. "Take a different car. Go hang out with my relatives." After today's spectacular rescue, Jeha headed straight to the organization's secret base. He stepped into an extraordinarily peculiar elevator. The screen displayed the floors continuously rising, but in reality, the elevator was plummeting at high speed. When the elevator doors opened, Jeha was stunned by what he saw. The place was heavily guarded, requiring fingerprint and retinal scans for entry. This was where the head of the corporation gathered all types of intelligence information. The head noticed Jeha entering the room and ended the meeting early. This time, Jeha wasn't here to receive a mission, but rather, the head wanted to learn about his past. Jeha didn't want to recount what he had been through. He still didn't understand why Park Won-soo had harmed his lover. At that moment, the head introduced him to the GS Intelligence Agency Center. The base was equipped with an advanced artificial intelligence system. Through scientific analysis, it could potentially provide the answers Jeha sought. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest AI of them all? The answer was Snow White. After witnessing the wonders of the mirror, Jeha finally agreed to tell the head about his painful past. His girlfriend was a local refugee. After Jeha saved her, she became a Korean interpreter. As for why Park Won-soo was there, Jeha still didn't know. He only remembered that after she had finished interpreting, his girlfriend was suddenly silenced, and Jeha himself was falsely accused of being the perpetrator. He could still vividly recall the face of his enemy in his heart. The magic mirror then analyzed Park Won-soo's movements at that time, and concluded that he had colluded with and sold weapons to the local rebels. As an interpreter, Jeha's girlfriend had learned about their transaction, and was killed to keep her silent. Seeing Jeha's sorrowful face, the head softly asked, "Were the two of you in love?" "I don't even know what my feelings for her were at the time. Did I love her, or did I pity her?" When Jeha returned to the mansion, he found the bodyguards still asleep, but Anna's room was empty. Earlier, Anna had seen her father on television. The news reported that Senator Zhang would attend an event at the church tomorrow. She planned to use this opportunity to meet her biological father. Why had he kept her locked away abroad for over 10 years? Even after she returned to the country, he still refused to see her. She quietly went downstairs, taking advantage of the moment when the female bodyguard was watching TV to sneak into her room, steal her access card and communication device, and, on impulse, grabbed a tranquilizer, which she injected into the bodyguard's coffee. Not long after, Anna was dressed in the bodyguard's clothes and slipped out. "This is car number 1. It's so late. Where are you going?" "I'm going to the supermarket for a bit." The bodyguard threatened, "If you keep doing this every day, I'll report you to the intelligence agency." Finally, Anna successfully escaped and enjoyed a freedom she had never known. By the time Jeha realized she was gone, Anna had already found her mother's former maid. Unfortunately, the elderly woman had become senile. She could only repeat, "Take Anna to America. Because Madam knows everything, she'll harm both Anna and her mother." These words caused Anna to become suspicious. Could the madam have been behind her mother's demise? Meanwhile, Jeha and Captain Joe quickly arrived on the scene. Unfortunately, after searching the area, they couldn't find Anna. Neither of them noticed Anna, disguised as a nun, walking away right in front of them. The church event proceeded as scheduled. Senator Zhang looked up and saw his daughter, but he didn't dare approach her. If the public learned that he had an illegitimate daughter, his path to the presidency would be over. He could only lower his head and ask the madam, "Why is Anna here?" The madam quickly called Captain Joe, ordering them to remove Anna immediately. However, with so many people in the church, using force would surely arouse suspicion. When the ceremony ended, the nuns left one by one, but Anna refused to leave, staring intently at Senator Jang. As the bodyguards tried to forcibly take her away, Jeha intervened. Music played, and the girl wept as she sang alone. The madam, filled with rage, didn't dare act rashly. Anna looked at Jeha with concern, and before leaving she glanced back at her father. To her surprise, Senator Jang cruelly turned away, and the madam beside him wore a dark expression. Jeha ran outside, but Anna was nowhere to be found. All that remained was a note she had left for her father. "Dad, I think I'm lost. Will you come get me? You know where I am, right?" Senator Jang had no idea where his daughter had gone. Meanwhile, Anna had gone to the park where she had played with her father as a child. She didn't notice that two girls taking a selfie had unintentionally captured her in the background. When this photo was posted online, the National Security Agency pinpointed Anna's location. Jeha was ordered to retrieve her. When he appeared, Anna looked suspicious. Jeha had to lie, saying her father had sent him and had even prepared strawberry ice cream for her. But Jeha didn't know that Anna was severely allergic to strawberries. "Did Dad buy this? If he did, I'll eat it." Thinking her father was angry with her, Anna ate the ice cream without hesitation. But soon after, she began to have difficulty breathing and finally fainted in Jeha's arms. Knowing that Anna was allergic to strawberries, Jeha blamed himself deeply. Anna fell into a coma due to the allergy, and Jeha was frantic with worry. He drove at breakneck speed, but, due to her special status, couldn't take her to a hospital. Jeha could only rush her to the National Security Agency headquarters. Fortunately, Anna received timely medical attention. When she woke up, she was still very weak. The doctor told her that Jeha had brought her just in time. Otherwise, the consequences would have been severe. Seeing the man standing by the door and remembering the moment he performed CPR on her, Anna felt a hint of happiness. At that moment, Jeha learned the truth about Anna's identity from the commander. It turned out that Anna's mother had been abandoned by Senator Jang, forcing her to go to America while pregnant. Later, she returned with her daughter, but by then, Senator Jang had already married. He continued his affair with Anna's mother in secret. In the end, Anna's mother died under mysterious circumstances. Afterward, Anna was controlled by the madam and sent abroad. Not long after, the madam returned to the National Security Agency. She went to the hospital room where Jeha stood guard outside. Anna was convinced that the madam had harmed her mother and was now preventing her from meeting her father. The madam claimed that Senator Jang didn't want to see her. It was his heartlessness, not her interference. "You saw it yourself at the church, didn't you? Your father doesn't want to see you." Meanwhile, Jeha, feeling guilty, promised Anna that he would make sure Senator Jang would meet her. On the other side, Senator Jang was preparing for a campaign speech, but the old lecherous man was still up to his old tricks, even making advances toward the beautiful makeup artist. As soon as his speech ended, he hurried to undress. Little did he know that this woman had been planted by his rivals. Just as Senator Jang entered the bathroom, the beauty opened the door, and a bodyguard handed her a syringe filled with tranquilizer. Jeha, hiding nearby, saw everything and quickly burst into the room to confront him. "You're in trouble. Come with me immediately." Senator Jang looked at the woman on the ground and immediately understood what had happened. At that moment, the police outside had already arrived, but luckily, Jeha was quick-witted. Otherwise, Senator Jang would have been caught red-handed. Jeha quickly escorted Senator Jang away from the scene. But when Jeha mentioned taking him to meet his daughter, Senator Jang became anxious and demanded they stop the car immediately. However, Jeha ignored him. Anna's actions weren't because she hated her father, but because she thought she was a burden to him. Upon hearing this, Senator Jang agreed to meet his daughter. However, he asked Jeha to protect Anna well from then on. How could a father be so heartless as to abandon his daughter? He knew that only by winning the presidential election and obtaining supreme power could he escape the control of his wife's family and save his daughter. Elsewhere, the madam of the conglomerate was closely monitoring everything from a secret base. Senator Jang chose his words carefully, even pretending not to know about Anna's allergy. At last, father and daughter met. Anna, heartbroken, brought up her mother's death, convinced that the conglomerate madam was behind it. The senator could only comfort her by saying that those things were in the past. Right now, the most important thing was his run for the presidency. Everything else was irrelevant. Anna, continuing to feel like a burden to her father, silently lay down. After a few days of treatment, Anna's condition was no longer concerning. Jeha brought her back to the villa. Reflecting on the recent events, Anna felt that the man before her was different from other bodyguards. When by his side, she felt safe. But just as they got out of the car, they noticed someone secretly taking photos. It turned out that the picture of Anna taken at the park earlier had already gone viral online. Jeha was about to step in to stop it, but then he came up with a way to protect Anna. Rather than locking her in a dark room, it was better to let her come forward to the public. He even had someone notify the media, revealing that Anna was the daughter of the late famous actress. This was truly shocking news. To ensure Anna's safety, Jeha trained her in how to deal with the media using hand signals. Not long after, the outside of the villa was packed with reporters. The madam had also seen the news broadcast. She was afraid that Anna would reveal her true identity to the media, which would ruin Senator Jang's presidential campaign. The madam immediately dispatched a special team to the villa to assassinate Anna. At that moment, Jeha was on high alert, positioning a female bodyguard within the crowd. Soon, the special ops team arrived. But as soon as the first assassin got into position, Jeha silently took him out. He then told Anna to stay inside for the time being. Next, Jeha swiftly dealt with the second assassin, knocking him out with a single kick. He assured Anna that it was now safe. But on the way back, he encountered Captain Ju, who seemed to be quite formidable. Ju tossed aside his weapon, indicating that he wanted to fight Jeha hand to hand. Without a word, the two men launched into an intense battle, neither gaining the upper hand. Meanwhile, Anna gathered her courage and stepped outside the villa. She introduced herself to the press. The madam hurried over, becoming extremely tense upon seeing the reporters surrounding Anna. The reporters questioned who Anna's father was, and the madam immediately signaled the assassin to shoot. But the assassin had already been dealt with by Jeha. The only option left was for the assassin mingling in the crowd to act, but even he was taken down by the female bodyguard Jeha had positioned earlier. "I am indeed Korean, but my father..." After hesitating for a moment, Anna said, "My father is the late film director Go Joon-ho." At this point, Anna had become the greatest threat to the madam. If she said the wrong thing, the madam would lose everything. As soon as Anna was out of sight, she could be assassinated by the madam. The next morning, Anna broke her usual silence, greeting everyone and even having breakfast with them for the first time. At this time, Jeha had arrived at the secret base. The madam questioned him about why he had helped Anna. Jeha criticized the madam for being heartless. "At first, you intended to take out the couple at the orchard, and now you want to target an innocent girl. Your actions are no different from Park Won-soo's." Jeha said he didn't want Anna to become another victim like his girlfriend. As he spoke, he unconsciously placed Anna in the same position as his girlfriend. But right now, the most important thing is to deal with Park Won-soo. This is a common goal for both of you. All they need is evidence of Park Won-soo's arms smuggling, and they can completely defeat him. Before leaving, the madam warned him to be cautious. "Don't worry, I'll be fine. You can contact me anytime. I mean that sincerely." The madam and her entourage went down to the lobby, unexpectedly encountering her half-brother. To make matters worse, Anna had also followed them. This made the madam extremely tense. The reason her half-brother approached Anna was, of course, to compete for the inheritance of the conglomerate. He wanted to take Anna away, but the madam stopped him. He threatened her, saying that if she didn't agree, he would expose Anna's true identity. Moreover, since Anna was now a public figure, she didn't need the madam's permission to go anywhere. With no other choice, the madam helplessly watched them leave. Meanwhile, Jeha followed from behind, protecting Anna. The half-brother used the excuse of taking Anna to see a psychologist to lead them to a hospital. Jeha, seeing that the doctor was familiar with Anna, let down his guard slightly. Seizing the opportunity, the half-brother tried to recruit Jeha to work for him, but Jeha wasn't interested. Suddenly, Jeha sensed something was wrong and rushed to the examination room. Inside, the room was empty. Realizing he had fallen for Jongwon's diversion, he quickly made his way back. When the madam learned of this, she was furious and ordered the entire GSS Special Forces team to track down Anna. The GSS division used surveillance cameras to locate Jongwon's car. Jeha was the first to arrive at the scene. The driver handed him Jongwon's phone. Jongwon demanded that Jeha come alone, otherwise Anna would be in danger. Driving like the wind, Jeha finally reached the destination, only to find that everyone was safe and sound. He informed the madam, who also breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that Anna had orchestrated everything. She simply wanted to break free from the madam's control. For the first time in her life, Anna felt free. Jeha silently stayed by her side. Jongwon tried once more to recruit him, but Jeha questioned his intentions. "What exactly are you after?" Jongwon didn't hide anything. He wanted to use Anna to defeat the madam. Jeha made it clear that once his mission was complete, he would leave and pursue what he truly wanted. These were possibly the sweetest moments between the couple. Anna herself expressed the deep emotions she had been holding inside. But their story was just beginning, and many challenges lay ahead for them. As the wife of the presidential candidate, the madam frequently participated in interviews. But today was a bit different. The host's questions all revolved around Anna's mother. Everyone knew that Anna's mother and the madam had been close friends. But unexpectedly, Anna appeared on the set, brought there by Choi Yoo-jin. This surprise stunned everyone. As soon as Anna stepped on stage, she stated that she suspected someone was behind her mother's death. On the day of the incident, her mother had purchased 2 plane tickets to America. If her death had been intentional, there wouldn't have been a need for the tickets, so something else must have been at play. After the interview, Jeha scolded Anna for coming to the scene without permission. Anna then took out the case file from her mother's death. It noted that her mother hadn't taken sleeping pills before she died, and there were signs of restraint, strongly indicating that she might have been murdered. Anna firmly believed that the madam was responsible. Meanwhile, the madam regretted not having dealt with Anna earlier. If Anna continued to appear in the media and revealed her status as Senator Jang's illegitimate daughter, all of the madam's efforts would be in vain. She ordered Secretary Kim to eliminate Anna quickly, but not to harm Jeha. However, Secretary Kim, seeing how blinded by love the madam had become, had no intention of following through. Soon after, a mysterious group carrying suitcases arrived at the scene. This sight happened to be caught by Jae-ha, who was upstairs. He immediately sensed something was wrong. Inside the suitcases, the group had brought poison gas. After setting up the devices downstairs, the group put on gas masks, and thick smoke began to rise. Jae-ha knew the madam had orchestrated this and tried to call for backup, but his phone signal was blocked. He quickly assessed the situation, grabbed a table, and led Anna into an air duct to escape. However, Anna refused to leave him behind. Seeing the toxic smoke already seeping into the house, Kim Jae-ha explained that if she stayed, he would be distracted by protecting her, and both of them would die in the end. Jae-ha lifted her into the air duct and then used the landline to call the madam. But unexpectedly, the one who answered the phone was Secretary Kim. "Hello, where's madam? Madam is busy. If you have something to say, tell me. Tell them to stop immediately." "Why should they stop? Everything was orderly before you showed up." Secretary Kim, disobeying madam's orders, was preparing to eliminate both Jae-ha and Anna. Toxic gas had spread throughout the building. The guards, having inhaled the gas, were unable to resist. Jae-ha could only cover his mouth and nose, launching a counterattack from behind. He quickly subdued 2 attackers and snatched one of their gas masks. But unexpectedly, he encountered a second group of assassins in the hallway. Armed with weapons, they attacked Jae-ha. In the darkness, Jae-ha's gas mask was knocked off. Relying on his extraordinary combat skills, he fought back against the enemies. The fight was intense. Meanwhile, Anna, hiding in the ventilation duct, was anxiously worried like a cat on hot bricks. Jae-ha delivered a powerful kick, knocking one attacker down. However, after inhaling too much toxic gas, he was kicked away. One of the assassins approached to finish him off, but unexpectedly, Anna rushed out from behind and struck 2 of them with a fire extinguisher. She called out to Jae-ha repeatedly, but he didn't respond. Another black-clad assassin slowly stood up and walked towards her. Anna could only back away step by step, hiding behind a pillar. Unfortunately, her coughing gave her position away. Anna put the gas mask on Jae-ha's face, but she had already inhaled a significant amount of gas herself. In the end, both of them lost consciousness. Later, the female bodyguard and her colleagues arrived to rescue them. On the other side, Senator Jang, having been framed by his opponent Park Won-soo, was currently detained and under investigation. As an independent candidate, although receiving the support of the majority of the people, the presidential election is approaching. If he is not released in time, he will miss the campaign period. This outcome, of course, is not something the madam wants to see. At the moment, the only way is to directly eliminate Park Won-soo, but assassinating Park Won-soo is no easy task. Basically, whoever is sent will die. The minister nominated someone to carry out this dangerous mission, but the madam hesitated after hearing it. The madam was determined to eliminate her competitor, and the best candidate was her ace bodyguard, Jae-ha. The madam knew this action was extremely dangerous, so she constantly hesitated. Jae-ha once saved her life. The two had gone through life and death together. How could she cruelly let the man she loved take such a risk? But in the end, the madam still called him. Jae-ha looked at Anna and agreed to take care of Park Won-soo. Even though Anna didn't want him to go, he still went to Kim's secret base. Jae-ha gave 2 conditions. First, the madam must spare Anna, and second, he wanted the life of Secretary Kim. Jae-ha was someone who sought revenge for every grievance, and Secretary Kim was utterly loyal to the madam, so she directly agreed. Before the mission, the madam told Jae-ha that if he encountered danger, he could abandon the task as long as he returned safely. Jae-ha mockingly replied that this didn't seem like her style, and he completely failed to see the affection she had for him. Watching Jae-ha's figure fade into the distance, the madam's heart felt empty. After that, the entire GS strike team was mobilized. Jae-ha received a call from Anna. She knew this mission was highly unusual and reminded Jae-ha that he must survive and return to her. Meanwhile, Secretary Kim also called the strike team captain, ordering that regardless of whether the assassination was successful or not, Jae-ha must be eliminated once the mission was completed. The entire GS strike team was mobilized with great force, but shortly after, Park Won-soo's insider reported the news. He learned that the madam intended to attack his stronghold, so he immediately arranged for an ambush, preparing to capture all of the madam's subordinates. He himself escaped the strike team's pursuit and went to another secret hideout. However, he didn't expect a sniper had already been lying in wait. As soon as Park Won-soo appeared, the sniper reported to the madam. It turned out that all of this was part of her plan. First, she had the director pretend to leak information, forcing him to flee to a remote location. On this side, Jae-ha led the team in an ambush. Jae-ha and the captain disguised themselves as police officers and followed behind. Unexpectedly, their identities were exposed by an assistant, but fortunately, snipers had been arranged, allowing the two to escape quickly. Then both sides engaged in a chaotic battle. Park Won-soo was escorted by his bodyguards into the house, and Jae-ha and the captain followed. In the chaos, the captain was shot, but Jae-ha arrived in time to save his life. However, if they missed Park Won-soo, everyone would be doomed, so Jae-ha had no choice but to leave the captain behind. At that moment, Park Won-soo had already hidden in a secret room, but just before the security door closed, Jae-ha charged in. Park Won-soo thought he had escaped, but when he turned around, he saw a gun pointed straight at him. Seeing the man full of murderous intent, Park Won-soo trembled and knelt down, begging for his life. Jae-ha was filled with fury and fired continuously at the ceiling. He wanted nothing more than to eliminate him for revenge. Calming down, he remembered his promise to Anna to survive and return. If he killed Park Won-soo now, he wouldn't be able to leave the secure room either. The madam had also said that for someone like Park Won-soo, death wasn't the worst fate. Ruining his presidential campaign would cause him the most pain. Jae-ha smiled bitterly, then negotiated terms with Park Won-soo. First, he demanded the release of his teammates outside, then called the madam. Taking advantage of the situation, he demanded a huge ransom from Park Won-soo. Knowing the madam's methods, Park Won-soo immediately agreed without hesitation. The madam, aware of Jae-ha's situation and wanting him to return safely, also agreed to spare Park Won-soo's life. However, she demanded that he release Congressman Jiang. Next, Congressman Jiang was declared to have joined the ruling party that very night. Then Jae-ha walked out carrying a bag of money. Upon returning, Anna hugged him tightly. As for Congressman Yang, he slapped his wife as soon as he walked in, warning her not to touch Anna. At this point, the madam felt both heartbroken and disappointed. She had painstakingly saved this man, only to be treated like this. She blamed her blindness for marrying him years ago. In the end, after putting all her effort into supporting him into politics, she hadn't expected such a result. But the madam of the conglomerate was not one to be easily bullied. She told Congressman Jiang, "Everything you have is because of me. If we're going down, we'll go down together. This is the first time in my life I've tasted a slap. Those hands of yours, I should have had my subordinates deal with them long ago. For the sake of your candidacy, I'm sparing you this time. You'd better stay obedient for me. If you don't run, I'll take everything back." The madam no longer had any affection for Congressman Jiang. She dressed up meticulously, her mind thinking of another man. But when she arrived at the door of a small bar, she saw the man she loved and Anna inside. At that moment, the madam felt an overwhelming sense of heartache. She didn't want to disturb them, and quietly left with tears in her eyes. On the other side, the group drank heavily and then returned to the villa to rest. Anna carefully bandaged Jae-ha's wounds, and then the two of them went up to the rooftop. The next day, Jae-ha went to the base, and his colleagues all gave him a thumbs up. He had saved the entire GS strike team the day before. Secretary Kim also expressed deep gratitude to him. Luckily, Jae-ha paid no mind, and Secretary Kim's life was spared. Now the target was still Park Won-soo. From information provided by the magic mirror, Jae-ha discovered an important clue. It turned out that when Park Won-soo visited his base in the past, he wasn't the only one. Among those accompanying him was the president's son. This indicated that the president was also involved in Park Won-soo's arms trafficking activities. If they found evidence, they could capture the entire group. The president's son was a doctor at a local hospital, so Jae-ha decided to start investigating there. He immediately arranged for the strike team to make a public appearance at the hospital. His goal was to put pressure on the doctor, making him anxious all day until he eventually slipped up. After many days of observation, Jae-ha discovered that the doctor frequently appeared in the lounge, where the evidence was likely hidden. He signaled his subordinates to pretend the mission was completed, and he himself stepped out of the lounge with a sinister smile. This made the doctor mistakenly believe they had obtained the evidence, and he ordered his men to detain Jae-ha. He quickly rushed to his seat, retrieving the USB hidden under the chair. Little did he know, all of this was part of Jae-ha's plan. Seeing Jae-ha's smug expression, the doctor finally realized something was wrong. He grabbed the USB and ran, with Jae-ha in close pursuit. On the way, he was blocked by the doctor's bodyguards, and the two sides clashed. Meanwhile, as soon as the doctor escaped Jae-ha, he got into a car and was about to leave, only to be confronted by Park Won-soo's men. They also wanted to seize the USB. The group rushed up, intending to search the doctor. Unexpectedly, the doctor fought back and fled, but in the end, he was cornered and fell. Luckily, Jae-ha arrived in time and pulled him back. Jae-ha forcefully threw him back into the building. The president's son's life was spared, and Jae-ha had obtained the USB. The people upstairs demanded that he hand over the evidence. Jae-ha had no choice but to run. At that moment, a truck passed by, and Jae-ha leaped, but was shot by the bodyguards upstairs. He knew he wouldn't make it out of there alive, so he hid the USB in a roadside bush. By the time Captain Yan arrived to assist, it was too late. Jae-ha was severely injured. Elsewhere, the madam received news of Jae-ha's critical condition, and her heart tightened with worry. She ordered Captain John to bring Jae-ha back to the GS headquarters. Immediately, the captain hurriedly brought him to the headquarters. The madam commanded him to take Jae-ha to the secret underground base. Seeing Jae-ha severely injured left the madam heartbroken. She demanded that the doctors save his life at all costs. The surgery was carried out immediately. Although the bullet was successfully removed, the wound was so severe that Jae-ha remained in a coma. Watching the man being resuscitated, the madam felt as if she were sitting on hot coals. Every time the defibrillator was used, it felt like needles stabbing her heart. After the doctor's meticulous efforts, Jae-ha finally pulled through and was out of danger. Meanwhile, news of the president's son being attacked had spread, and Jae-ha was being considered a suspect. Upon hearing this, Park Won-soo contacted the chief of police, requesting him to personally lead a raid on the GS headquarters. The police chief arrived with a large team at GS headquarters, but the elevator took them straight to the 9th floor. It was just a regular data storage room. In another location, including Zhongwan, various chaebol families were closely watching the outcome of the search. If the USB ended up in the madam's hands, with her methods, they would all be doomed. As a result, no one dared make a move. Everything had to wait until the president's son woke up. Coincidentally, the president's son gradually regained consciousness in the hospital. He recalled that Jeha had saved him at the critical moment and had also taken the USB. The president immediately ordered the police to withdraw from GS headquarters. Without delay, the police chief received the order to retreat. When Park Won-soo heard this news, he surmised that the madam had obtained the USB, and it seemed that something bad was about to happen. Of course, the madam also guessed that Jeha had obtained the evidence, which was why the police withdrew. She ordered Captain John to find Jeha. As for Senator Jiang, he also wanted to get his hands on that important USB. Having evidence of the Cable family's corruption would not only make it easy for him to defeat his rival, Park Won-soo, but also allow him to break free from the madam's control. Upon hearing that Jeha was injured, Anna rushed to the base to see the man she loved. She desperately called the madam her mother, even kneeling to beg her. The madam, unexpectedly soft-hearted in front of everyone, could only agree. She took Anna to a secret room. She told Anna that Jeha was in critical condition and could not be taken to the hospital. After all, attempting to assassinate the president's son was a serious crime, and she had done everything she could to protect him. The madam said Jeha's identity had been exposed, and if Anna didn't leave, Jeha wouldn't either, and he would eventually be caught. The madam urged Anna to leave Korea quickly, as it was the best way to protect Jeha. Meanwhile, Jongwon went to meet Park Won-soo. The two plotted a sinister plan to target the madam and compete for the family's inheritance. Jongwon brazenly brought a suitcase bomb into his sister's company. Having already bribed the department head, they charged into the underground secret base. Seeing that the situation was dire, the madam quickly ordered the bulletproof doors to be closed so they couldn't get in. However, Choi Eung-won activated the bomb, setting it to explode in 2 hours. He then demanded his sister hand over control of the secret base. After saying this, he calmly sat down on the sofa. At the same time, Park Won-soo called via video, demanding that the madam hand over the USB. By now, Jeha had spent a long time recovering from his injuries. The madam gently asked Jeha what to do. "I'll capture both of them. Don't worry, leave everything to me." The madam quickly understood his plan. She told Park Won-soo that the USB had always been in Jeha's possession and that she had never had it. The department head standing next to her also confirmed her statement. The madam and Jeha exchanged glances. Jeha then demanded a large sum of money from Park Won-soo, stating that he would leave the base and give him the USB. Park Won-soo, noticing Jeha had just undergone surgery and was in no condition to fight, agreed. Before leaving, Jeha advised the madam to hand over control of the base, as that would ensure her safety. He promised to help her regain everything later. The madam bitterly smiled and said, "This base holds too many secrets, and anyone who steps foot in here wants to take control of it." At the same time, the madam had long since shared control of the base with Jeha. It was clear how important Jeha was to her. She recalled all the moments they had shared. As he left the base, Jeha reminded the AI system to quickly close the bulletproof doors. Once Jeha and Park Won-soo's men had left the secret base, the madam's face suddenly turned cold. She ordered the elevator to stop working and cut off all outside communication signals. The people outside panicked, and Choi Eung-won tried to stay calm. The madam then ordered the base to send surveillance footage to Secretary Kim's phone. On the other end, Secretary Kim received the signal and immediately mobilized the entire GSS Special Task Force to assist. Now the real game had begun. The chaebol madam had never shown mercy to traitors. She quickly located the police chief's family through the magic mirror and sent their addresses to an assassin organization in the US. To ensure success, she even wired them cash immediately. Terrified, the police chief begged the madam to spare his family. The madam coldly said, "If you take your own life now, I'll let them live." To protect his descendants, the police chief grabbed a gun from a nearby bodyguard. On the other side, Jeha had just retrieved the USB when he was ambushed and knocked to the ground by Park Won-soo's men. They picked up a gun and were about to finish Jeha off, but Captain Joe arrived in time, delivering a fatal blow to the attacker. Jeha reluctantly handed the USB to Senator Jiang, then drove straight to Park Won-soo's lair, broke into the safe house, but found it empty. He soon learned from a subordinate that Anna had been captured by Park Won-soo, who demanded the USB in exchange for her release. Meanwhile, Senator Jiang, having obtained the USB, couldn't resist calling the madam to boast. But the madam didn't care about him. Her only concern was Jeha's safety. Not long after, Park Won-soo also learned that the USB had fallen into Senator Jiang's hands, and he threatened Jiang to use the USB to exchange for his daughter. Jeha quickly located Anna's whereabouts, but he was too late. She had already been taken to the GSS headquarters. Jeha learned from Park Won-soo's butler that the bomb Choi Eung-won had brought had been tampered with. Once activated, it couldn't be stopped. In other words, everyone at GSS headquarters would die. With that, Jeha rushed to join them. As for Anna, she was being taken to the underground secret base by Park Won-soo's men. But the trainer and Captain John suddenly appeared, attacking her guards. Taking advantage of the situation, Anna fled to the parking lot. Suddenly, someone covered her mouth. The action made Anna remember the person who had killed her mother. She turned around and saw it was the trainer. It turned out that Anna's mother had been killed by the trainer under orders from the old chairman. Anna now realized her mother's death had nothing to do with the madam. To enter the underground base, Jeha used a safety rope to descend straight to the 9th floor. Seeing this, Zhongwan immediately took Anna hostage. Jeha had no choice but to let him leave first. Jeha had intended to bring Anna outside, but Zhongwan didn't care about them. As he left, he even shot Jeha. Jeha, pull me up. But after climbing into the elevator, Zhongwan threw the only safety rope down. After hearing the news, Jeha made a bold decision. He urged the madam to leave the basement, but she replied that she was tired and didn't want to go anymore. The man she loved had fallen for another woman, and there was no place for her in this world. The madam told Jeha just to take Secretary Kim to safety. Reluctantly, the four of them made their way to the elevator. Jeha notified someone upstairs to shoot the cable holding the elevator, causing it to fall into the empty shaft below. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, Senator Yang stepped out. He said he wanted to bring the bomb into the bulletproof room, so when it exploded, it would absorb some of the impact, giving the others a chance to survive. He entrusted Anna to Jeha. This broke Anna's heart, and she cried bitterly. Senator Jiang then rushed into the room and pulled the bomb inside. Close the doors. Let's all go to the afterlife together. The colleagues on the first floor anxiously called out to Jeha. Soon after, Anna took her place as the chaebol madam. She was now the sole heir to the family. As for Park Wan-soo, he was captured by Jeha, handed over to Captain Zhou, and forced to take his own life. Elsewhere, Secretary Kim emerged from a car, with Zhang Wan, the madam's younger brother, inside. Anna, uninterested in the power the madam once held, renounced her position as the group's heir, and publicly revealed the secrets on the USB found in the bulletproof room. The political landscape of South Korea was thrown into chaos in an instant. The two young people returned to Spain, living a life of freedom and peace.